All right, so when I'm teaching people how to play Subbuteo, I kind of have a routine that I like to go through. Helps me get someone into the game quickly. I can teach them in about 5 minutes to play, and they get a feel for the game and how it works. So first of all, let me apologize for audio. Got family upstairs homeschooling. Got a 3D printer going here in the background, so you might hear some weird sounds coming from that. But hopefully we can get through this. So again, when I'm out somewhere and I'm demoing games, I have a quick spiel. People come up with it, might be interested. I tell them, hey, if you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I can teach you how to play this game, and you can see what it's all about. So what I like to do, first I just start off with showing them, if they haven't already been watching for a bit, this is basically how the game plays, flicking the player into the small ball, and I talk about the flick, and I tell them there are a couple of rules with your flicking. First, you need to always use the top of your finger, the nail of whatever finger you're using. You can use a middle or index or whatever finger works for you. Um, I also tell them they're not allowed to use your thumb as a spring. However, you can use the table as a spring. And I often refer to playing pool, because a lot of people play pool. Not too many people played Subbuteo yet. So I tell them, think of it like your forehand in pool, right? So you're playing pool, you have that nice stable base that you use for playing pool. Well, that's the same idea, just you're going to be flicking with that index finger, all right? So that's how I kind of tell people to envision it early on. I also tell them it's good to have additional fingers on the board to give yourself a nice stable, consistent base. So if you're trying to do this, and I'll do this kind of at an angle so you can see from the camera, your flicking can be a bit more inconsistent if you're just trying to hover that finger over. I've seen people do that. Then I set up the table as you see it here, 2 lines. I have 2 players with just the figures on the shoot line, and I tell the person just flick the player and try to stop them on the center line here. And I let them run down the entire length of the players flicking to kind of get their bearings with that. And if they're all over the place or really short or really far, then maybe I'll set it up a second time, let them run through it a second time. But typically by the time someone's halfway down, they're getting close to the center line here. And the next thing I do, once that's complete, is I'll grab a ball or 2, set them up, and I'll tell the player, now flick the player into the ball and have the ball stop on the center line. So, just nice and easy. That's all they need. And usually, the first couple are either very short or very long. Even still, I do it. But before too long, they start getting the hang of it. Once they've done that, the next step is, okay, I want you to flick the player and touch the ball. See if you can just touch it, but just try to make contact with the ball. All right? So we just do that. Have them try that a few times. They get the feel for it. Again, if they need the extra practice, I'll go ahead and do it another additional time. But I don't let them go too long with it. But one run of players is usually enough. All right, once they've got a feel for that, now's when I'll start actually breaking down the game for them and the rules. So the first thing I talk about is possession. So you maintain possession of the ball as long as one of your player makes a connection with the ball. I'll also tell them any one player can only touch the ball 3 times, and then another player on your team has to touch the ball in order to keep possession, right? And I'll tell them what you'll see a lot of good players do is they'll kind of walk the ball up the field like so. All right, so that is possession. Then I'll talk a little bit about defense. So we have an attacker on offense and a defender. So for every flick the attacker makes, the defender is entitled to a flick. Now they're not allowed to touch the ball. They're not allowed to touch another player, theirs or their own. But, they can get in the way. They can get up close to the ball, or they can get between the player and the ball. Basically just trying to make it harder for the attacker to move down the field, right? So, and I'll emphasize they're entitled to a flick, and the neat part about this game is it's in real time. So the attacker, while they're flicking, doesn't have to wait for the defender, okay? Then I'll talk about the differences in the field. So we have a center line, we have goal lines, we have touch lines, and we have our penalty area and our goal area and our center circle, just like on a regular soccer field. What are new additions are these 2 lines. These are the shoot lines. I'll explain that the ball is not shootable until the ball is completely past that line. So that is not a shootable ball. It might be harder to see in the camera because of the angling. That is technically not a shootable ball. that is a shootable ball, right? Then I'll remind them that that's the same no matter where the ball is on the line. So this is not out of bounds. This is not out of bounds. That's out of bounds. Okay? Same thing happens on the touch lines. All right? So anytime a ball were to be shot and end up in the net, the ball has to be past this line for it to count. All right? Then I'll talk about goalies. I don't actually have a stick goalie here, but I'll put a goalie in, and I will tell them, you can raise the goalie up a little bit up in the air. You can rotate the goalie left and right to cut down an angle. But what I'll inform is, they can't waggle the goalie back and forth in front of the goal. Okay? I'll also talk about the flicking goalie and tell them the flicking goalie is just like another player on the pitch. When there's a free flick, we'll talk about those in a bit. This goalie can, as long as it can be inside this box or behind this line, they can flick this just like any other player. They get 3 flicks with it just like any other player. I'll also tell them about the stranded goalie rule. I won't go into a lot of detail, but I'll warn them, be careful. Okay? I'll also mention things like throw-ins or flick-ins, goal kicks, goal kicks and corner kicks, and kickoffs, because those are all what I call dead ball situations. Also a foul that ends up in a free flick. I'll tell them about those, and basically what I'll remind them is anytime you're in a dead ball situation, the player that flicks that ball first can't then follow up and play that ball, right? Another player, if I can flick properly, another player has to touch that ball first, then they may resume play with that same player, because that tends to trip people up the first couple times they play the match if they're not familiar with soccer. Okay, and that's basically what I will tell them to get them started. Again, I'll mention fouls, I'll mention throw-ins, I'll mention corner kicks, but I won't explain any of that until they actually happen in game. So what I'll do is I'll set 5 minutes on the clock, and I will let them play. But the first 5 minutes, I will make sure that it's an attacking move, a defending move, and an attacking move and a defending move, just to get them in the rhythm of that back and forth. Okay? After the first half, 5 minutes are up, I have them switch sides, right? So because they get the whole switch sides at the half. And then we'll play another 5 minutes, but this time it'll be real time. And I'll urge them to take their block flicks, immediately following or very soon after following an attacking flick, just to get in that real-time rhythm, as it were. Then if the players have time, and they don't want to actually play like a full match, I'll actually set up penalty flicks, right? So your normal penalty flick situation at the end of a tied knockout match, just so they get some chances to actually shoot on goal and things like that. So that's my spiel that I go through. It's very quick. It gets all the basic information that they need to know to get started. You fill in details as they occur on the pitch. I go into all the flicking rules and the positional flicking. We talk about offsides, when offsides happens. All that stuff just happens in the natural flow state of the game. And that's how I teach Subbuteo.